And now our final two speakers from the panel. First of all, Douglas Murray.
Thank you. I should assume some of that applause was for me as I got up. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Ibn Warraq has pretty much laid it out already. As far as I can see, he's said everything that I would have wanted to say about Western values, what they are. He's defined them. There isn't, I believe, much challenge from the panel so far, or I suspect from the room, about those values. The only thing I can see that might hold up some people in the audience from voting on the right side tonight, if I may. Certain of the words in the motion, we say that we shouldn't be reluctant. We should be to assert the superiority of our values. Superiority is, I think, the troubling word we've all got here, and a couple of my predecessors have already mentioned this. You don't have to go very far in Britain, or the West in general at the moment, to find people's unwillingness to assert the superiority of their values. But they know the superiority of their values, because they live with the superiority of their values. I talk at a lot of campuses, and I was at one last night in London, where a student got up and started protesting because I had said that an Islamist government was of itself a bad thing, which I think it is. I just said to this student, and it's not a hard question you'd have thought to ask, I just said, well, name me one Islamist government state that you would want to live in. And this is a serious question, ladies and gentlemen. It is also a personal question, and one which, if people were honest, they would admit is personal. As a gay man, there's not a country that's run by Muslims which I could live in. One of my best friends is in hiding again tonight, Dayan Hirsi Ali, because of what she says, and she'd be killed if she went to any Muslim country. And I think that matters. And I think the way in which this affects our personal lives does matter, and we should not ignore it. We have the great blessing of living under this system. And we take it for granted, and we spit on it, and we can because we're living in that freedom. But I beg you, ladies and gentlemen, not to pretend that that means that we shouldn't assert the superiority of that system, because that is what it is. It is a superior system. It doesn't, and I would stress this, it doesn't have to be violently asserted. Rights and values are not asserted by violence. They are asserted by showing people your rights. They are shown by example. If you do not speak up for your rights, if you do not say that you think that the rights that you enjoy should not be enjoyed by other people, or people with darker skin, or people in other countries, then I submit that you make a great error of judgment. Mr. Glass treated us to a textbook example of Western masochism. And I know some people in the hall enjoy that, because some people laughed and clapped when he cited Western civilization and epitomized it by what? World War, Nazism, Abu Ghraib, Guantanamo. Ladies and gentlemen, if you believe that the West should be treated and regarded only as something which is treated by its lowest moments, and believe that all other cultures and all other civilizations should be treated only by their highest moments, you're already putting in an unequal challenge here. Abu Ghraib and Guantanamo, I need hardly go without saying, ladies and gentlemen, were not representative of me, were not representative of the West. And the great difference that can't be reiterated enough, the great difference is that Lindy England is in prison. She is in prison and did not speak for the West. She was imprisoned and found guilty in the West, by the West, for the West. That matters, ladies and gentlemen, and it can't be stressed enough. Mr. Aronovich has already done this. But in Iran, when a couple were shot the other week for holding hands when not being married, the courts congratulated them. Ladies and gentlemen, it does not need you to want to assert your morals violently, to say that that stinks and we will not be a part of it. Mr. Ramadan then went on, and I think this is an important thing to talk about, to immigrants. He did exactly the same thing that Mr. Glass did. He treated us as a society as if we were a society that just abuses immigrants, that imprisons them, locks them up. I don't know where he gets that from. I see immigrants all across our streets, many of whom are doing very well. Most people in Britain have welcomed them. There hasn't been mass violence against these immigrants. By and large, they have been welcomed. How does that happen? How would the reverse happen in Saudi Arabia? How would the reverse of that happen in any Islamic culture? Why is it that every Jew in the Middle East has had to go to Israel? Why is it that we have made the de facto agreement that if there is to be a Palestinian state, it has to be Judenrein, clear of Jews? Because we treat them by a different standard, ladies and gentlemen, and we know it, and we will not do what we need to do, which is to say this is what works for us, and this is, we believe, what could work for other people. Mr. Ramadan said that we need dialogue. I agree. Everyone agrees we need dialogue. But where does it start? Would it start, for instance, with making a joke, contra Mr. Khomeini, not a very funny man? Or would it start with an article, perhaps? Would it start, perhaps, with a film? It did, a few years ago, with Submission, and Theo van Gogh was killed. Could it start with making a joke, perhaps? A joke in a cartoon? Well, apparently not, because we know that there were burnings and killings and lootings and riotings across the globe in reaction to those cartoons. If you're going to start a dialogue, what could you do that would be smaller than drawing a cartoon? If anyone has an idea, please let me know. But this dialogue, which we keep on being offered, is not reciprocated. And we can have the dialogue here, in the West, tonight. But how many of the countries that will be talked about by the other side could we have the same dialogue in? We get to discuss our failings because we are in the West. We get to analyze our failures because we are here. And I think that matters. I would like to finally pick up on 2 points. Firstly, the idea, and it was misrepresented by Mr. Glass straight away, and I hope you noticed it, and I hope you registered it, that Western values were being used by our side, my side of the hall, as being something which we were keeping for ourselves. Mr. Ibn Warraq did not make that statement, and nobody on our side has. We are saying that the values which people call Western are universal. That doesn't mean secularizing people. It doesn't mean making everyone else believe in your gods or in your favorite fashion item or your favorite pop star or your favorite type of food. But it does mean that the rights which the West has nurtured and brought up exclusively, the West has nurtured and brought up, should be and can be extended to other people. And I deeply resent the notion that that was misrepresented in that way, as if we were making some kind of racial exclusive claim. Our side is not. Finally, if we do not assert our values, ladies and gentlemen, who will? Who will assert them across the Muslim world? Who are the reformers in the Muslim world going to look to when they want to see and desperately need separation of church and state? If we do not assert and state that we believe that is the best way to live, who is going to do it in the Muslim world? Who is going to feel emboldened to do it? And Urshid Manji said a few weeks ago when she was in London, said this: if you give up on us, if you give up on yourselves, people like me are dead. And ladies and gentlemen, I think we should take that call seriously. To assert the superiority of Western values is to state the obvious. It's to have faith in ourselves, and it's to have faith in other people. Thank you. I have to pick up once again on the fact that, again, Mr. Glass has said that you, ladies and gentlemen in the room, are propping up or pro-dictator regimes, that you in this room are doing deals with Saudi Arabia. Ladies and gentlemen, the West may have made and has made grotesque errors in propping up dictators in the Middle East, but we also manage not to prop them up. We've also, if you like, we have the antidote to poisons within us. Can that be said of other societies to the same extent? And please note Mr. Dalrymple's use of the word we. It was we when it was people carrying out massacres in the West, in the past, your forebears. It was only we when it's us doing bad things. When is it we expressed by Mr. Dalrymple of pride of what the West has done? That he cannot bring himself to do, and I hope you note it, ladies and gentlemen. This is masochism, and it's being offered to you by a sadist.
Right. I make no apology for reminding the audience in this room about Western history. I'm a historian. And I think, if we forget what we've done, so much of Western colonialism simply isn't taught in our classrooms. The history of the extinction of all these hundreds of different tribes and peoples who we have driven to extinction, we don't know about this. I particularly make no apology for mentioning the Holocaust. The Nazis were certainly not afraid of asserting the superiority of Western values. No, it's a very serious point.
With that.
It's a very serious point, and they contrasted their Western and their rooted German values as they saw it. No, it is an absolutely serious and essential point.
Please, if you want to get a chance to have democracy in the Islamic world, don't come with one word to say this is the only universal way to be like us. No, we are for principles, rule of law, equal citizenship, accountability, universal suffrage and separation of power. These are the indisputable principles, but let the people find their model. Don't come with your model to impose it onto them.
Okay.
Professor Ramadan is doing is the reverse side of what I hear a lot of conservative right-wing politicians doing now, which is effectively we just have to give them a lot of time. You tend now to hear the thing about people needing their own reformation, Islam being 600 years younger and all this kind of thing. I recently heard exactly the same thing as Professor Ramadan was saying, uttered by Norman Lamont, Baron Lamont of Tehran. He said exactly the same thing. But they need time. Tariq Ramadan said it's going to take time. How much time, ladies and gentlemen? I don't think we have time. And I would beg Professor Ramadan to go around the Muslim world explaining to women in Saudi Arabia they can look forward to freedom in 600 years' time. And that gay people in the Muslim world can look forward to having their first meaningful relationship 6 centuries from now.
So send the troops, please. Send the troops in Saudi Arabia, not in Iraq and not in Iran. In Saudi Arabia, do it and promote them. Promote Saudi Arabia, not Iraq.
Up to the Saudi regime.
Why are you not asking the troops to go to Saudi Arabia? Because of geostrategic...
I'm going to ask everybody else to stay seated so you get more talking time that way. Unless you actually want to.
I'm happy sitting.
Very good. Okay.
Mr. Dalrymple did, however, just make an allusion there. He talked about the West's virtues. He talked about it being rich and productive. He did not focus, for instance, or even mention the fact that it is also free. I think this matters, ladies and gentlemen. He was counting the amount of money you make, not the virtues of your life or the values of your systems or the rights that you enjoy. I'm quite loath in a way to mention Iraq, but somebody just did. This is usually the moment at which I start to lose the debate. But I would, since most of you voted anyway, it doesn't matter. Iraq would indeed be a much better place if the parties of God were not killing our secular friends and allies there. And I think it's a grotesque thing to hold the West and Western values and liberty and freedom and democracy and the rule of law, blame them for religious fundamentalists blowing up our secular allies. And I hope you noticed that, ladies and gentlemen. And why we compare them with Muslim values? I agree with the lady. We could have focused on Buddhist values. We could have focused on any other types of values. The reason why it kept on coming back to it is, as you know, because this is the matter of our time. And it is not hard at the moment to notice the calls for the different type of societies that people want to create. And that there is a clear difference. And I hope, ladies and gentlemen, when you vote for the right side tonight, you make this clear. There is a difference between the Western states which practice their own values that we sometimes mistakenly call Western values. And yes, we should call them liberal values, and yes, we should call them universal values, but we identify them with the West because they came from the West, because they were nurtured in the West, and that they are hopefully, I hope you will agree, asserted by the West and believed in by the West. We are the people that can spread this. Thank you.